we had heard like don't even get off the ship, so we didn't even get off the ship. They did love the private island. All right. Good evening, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get our June 2024 board meeting started. It is 7 p.m. I'll go ahead and call to order. Our first order of business will be the board minutes from the May meeting. Does anybody have any comments or edits they would like to make to those? All right, I will deem those approved by unanimous consent. Our first order of business will be our support group updates. We'll go ahead and start with the PTO.
The PTO has sent their report because they are all blissfully into summer. And they deserve it because it was a wonderful year. So the PTO was thrilled to wrap up the school year on a high note by partnering with the administrative team to host the end of year staff lunches. The elementary was a dinosaur themed staff lunch, which took place this past Tuesday, followed by a shared Hawaiian theme lunch at the middle school and high school. With Mr. Funchess manning the grill, approximately 180 staff members enjoyed the fun end of the year cookout. At the elementary, the PTO even wore blow up dinosaur costumes. And at the middle school and high school, there was a surprise performer. So there was lots going on during that time period. Throughout the year, our PTO lunch volunteers served over 50,000 student lunches across 160 school days and hosted 7 staff events, including Staff Appreciation Week, the Cookie Walk, and 5 all-staff lunches. We introduced the beloved monthly treat cart, offered fresh new spiritware, and celebrated our staff with birthday and seasonal gifts, treats, and festivities. This time of year, we launched our Buddy Ambassador program to help new families acclimate to LNC, and we will be in full swing preparing for our summer bash. In all, we have distributed over $110,000 back to our staff and school, including 25 grants totaling over $50,000. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to hundreds of PTO volunteers for generously dedicating thousands of hours to serve our staff, students, and LNC community. The campus presidents, Jamila Lindsay, Nikki Lowe, and Kim Shield, would like to wish everybody a happy summer and invite you all to the 3rd annual Summer Bash on July 10th. And I just like to give a particular thanks to our PTO presidents, because all of that was because they helped to coordinate that and had vision for that. So they're fantastic, and we're very fortunate to have them and all the PTO volunteers.
Okay, thank you to the PTO for all of the wonderful things that have gone on this past year. I mean, certainly I know that the teachers appreciate it, the staff appreciates it, the families appreciate all the work that you do. So thank you so much for everything that you all do. And then we're going to turn it over to Mr. Schlegel for the athletic booster.
Yeah, good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. We are officially done with sports. So we started August 1st, and we can officially say all sports right now are not in season. We're summer workouts. With that being said, we had a very successful year. We had 3 state championships. Our women's tennis team won this fall. Our women's swim and dive team won the state championship. That is first in history. And then men's lacrosse won their 3rd consecutive state championship this spring. Yeah. Those are really, thank you. It was a really, really great year. We finished really strong with our spring sports, soccer, baseball, tennis, everything, track. Everyone went into the playoffs, went deep into the playoffs. Very successful year. We're just going to sit back and wait for the Wells Fargo count to come in. I'm hoping with the 3 state championships that may elevate us above. I think we were short by 0.5 last year from being in first place on the Wells Fargo Cup. So hopefully this put us over the edge. But we'll find out hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Also, our early bird for the booster membership is open. We've started advertising a little bit. We found out during the summer we don't get much action, so we'll have it out there, but we'll really hit the families when we get back into school. Also today, an email went out to our whole community for the golf outing registration, and I get the emails and I already saw them floating in. That is October 21st at Skybrook. That's where this event will be this year. So I'm excited to kind of wind down a little bit. The track is being done right now. We shut the field down for 2 weeks, winding down. Teams are doing workouts. We got camps going on. I'm doing some scheduling for next spring right now. Take a little chill pill and then jump right back into it. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to all the spring sport athletes and their impressive seasons. So I know that I had an athlete myself, and they did well in their playoff bids, and so we're really proud of all of our teams. All right, now we're going to move on to our state school report. Ms. Stein?
Thank you. So is 3 wins a dynasty?
I think it's 4.
Congratulations. It really was a very successful year. One of the things I enjoy most about the June board meeting is the opportunity to really reflect back on the school year. And quite honestly, I would say that this school year is in my memory, probably one of the best I've had in 15 years. And meaning just what I saw throughout the school, everything that was happening on behalf of kids, connections with families. And so first of all, I just want to thank our staff and also our administration. They helped to lead all of those things. And it was really noted that things were tracking in the right direction. This came out, and I'm sure you guys saw this at our end of the year communication, but I like to highlight it again because the end of the year is really dynamic. That's the word I use for the nice word I use for crazy. And everybody, and there's so many good things happening. And then sometimes because of that, things can get lost in the shuffle. But this is from our stakeholder survey. And as we can see, couple years ago, we had seen a diminished participation in the survey that had gone up. You know, to see that our feeling like this is the right fit is in the high 90s. All of these different areas are tracking in a very positive direction, including the vision for the board. And I think that's come with a lot of work as well. So it was exciting to see all of these different opportunities and some of the things that were particularly directed at some of the work that was being done as a board strategic committee, including Thrive, which is 21% increase on opportunities for kids in the school environment, which is awesome. So great document. I have that in your board folder if you want to take a look at that. Don't want to get to Haley's fun stuff too fast. So we had 2 moving on up ceremonies, 1 recognition ceremony, and 1 exceptionally good graduation. A little bittersweet because obviously we would like to congratulate Mr. Smith on his promotion to a different unnamed school district, because I'm not gonna say that in my school. No, no, he's going to an extremely great school and he's going to lead well. So we wish him all the best, and I'm sure he will make sure that they are living and being their best as well there. So congratulations, Mr. Smith. And with that note, we want to welcome our interim principal, Mr. Mark Malik, who happens to be with us in the audience tonight. So he has come to us from CMS with 8 years of administrative experience, most recently at North Mech. So lots of great high school experience to bring. And I know the staff and the rest of the LNC community is really looking forward to meeting him. He will be on campus starting on June 17th. And I know he's extended invitations to lots of folks to get a chance to meet him. One of the things I'm particularly excited to share, and I saved it to last, is I want to congratulate our instructional technology facilitators for securing a grant to fund effective digital learning practices. It was a grant that was offered to all North Carolina K-12 public schools. It was an extensive grant. They took it upon themselves to jump in. I saw the document they put together, and it was over 40 pages. It's a 3-year plan. And because of their efforts, they have secured over $90,000 in funding to help train our staff in best practices around AI, in getting software, in having opportunities to go to some conferences. So basically putting LNC on the front edge. And there were 10 schools in the state that were awarded it, and we were the only charter school that qualified. So it is clear that they did an exceptionally good job, and they Dr. Graham and myself met with the ITF today. We didn't even know they had gotten the grant. We didn't find it out till this afternoon. And they're just that type of people that was like, in case we get the grant, we need to start planning now. And I'm like, but we don't have the grant. And they're like, but we're going to plan. And I love it. And we came up with some great stuff. And then lo and behold, we got the information this afternoon. So we're very excited, and it very much aligns with what we see as a need. Obviously aligns with Future Ready, and hopefully it will be something similar to when we took on our Wonder World back in the day, and we're kind of on the cutting edge. That'll be able to pay off for our students and families by having them be on the forefront. So just a big congratulations and thanks to them for that. And that's it.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the school report. I love the end of the year myself too. So, and I think your words to describe it are quite accurate. And just wanted to say a note of thanks and appreciation to Mr. Smith for your years of service at LNC. I mean, I've had the personal pleasure of working with you on the Thrive Committee and all the other names that we called it before that. Over the last couple of years, I've had 2 students in the high school over the last 4 years. So, you know, you have definitely left your mark and will be missed, and we wish you all the success in the future. And welcome to Mr. Malik. So glad that you could join us tonight, and we look forward to having you start. I'm more than confident you're going to get a warm welcome. So congratulations on joining us. So alrighty, we have on the agenda old business, which is typically where we would do our committee reports, and we're actually not going to be doing formal presentations on those tonight. We had some pretty good updates at the May meeting, kind of closing out the year, and right now the committees are in the process of setting up goals for the upcoming year. So we've had a couple of meetings in working on that and kind of getting the framework that we need for, you know, to achieve those goals in place. So that work will be done over the summer. So come August, when the new school year starts and we come back into session, I'm sure that August or September we'll have our presentation to the board on the goals for those subcommittees. Okay, we're going to move on to our new business, and that I'm going to kick it over to Ms. Wilson to do our budget amendment.
Hey everyone, so the first thing I will be submitting for vote tonight is Budget Amendment 2 for the 23-24 school year. As you know, the fiscal year is coming to a close on June 30, so just coming in with all of the shifts that we have had to the budget since the last budget amendment was approved. So on the revenue side, you'll see that there has been an increase to pretty much every revenue category. On the state revenue, we have state teacher bonuses. So the state gives bonuses to teachers for AP exams, reading and math. And pretty much we're just a pass-through entity. The state tells us who we need to pay it to and we pay it to them. So there's a revenue, but there's an offsetting expense. We also got our money in for local and state fines and forfeitures and gaming revenue. And then this week there was a one-time allotment that came out of nowhere for non-reoccurring retirement supplement. So anyway, there was a change literally from the finance committee meeting we had late last week to now. That was about 115,000. We'll be able to draw it down and spend it, but we may be able to use some of that money. It's probably going to roll into fund balance and we can maybe apply that to some stuff next fiscal year. We also received money from the state for our elementary school summer reading, but again, that's just an in and out. The revenue's coming in, but we'll have the expenditures that go out. We get PTO reimbursements for any building level expenses that our principals use the PTO for, again, and then in and out. We did get interest earnings on some of our operating and investment funds. We did a T-bill that generated about $100,000 in interest earnings. So we are looking to hopefully do something like that next fiscal year. We had a legal settlement, and then you'll also see some Knights Fund adjustments for campaign donations, and then the Night of Shenanigans. So the revenue that came in, and then obviously there'll be an offsetting expense. We had an adjustment to our federal EC grant. We actually received more than we budgeted for. And then the last one on the revenue side is some adjustments for the field trips. On the expenditure side, again, the offsetting teacher bonuses, summer reading. We did see an increase in some of our sports rental facilities. So that's on here. You will see an adjustment for the EC students that are on extended school year services, some of the payroll and contracted services to facilitate that, the offsetting legal settlement, and then again, PTO reimbursements, and then some adjustments at the building level between categories. We may have had it in technology, we need to move it to supplies kind of thing. The next two I've already talked about, but then you'll see on the CapEx, we are going to do the sand filter work finally at the elementary school. We've always known that was coming, but Scott was able to get that date locked in. So we're going to have that done before the end of the fiscal year. We need to do some work on the field house with the electrical, and then we are purchasing some instruments for the middle school band. And then finally, we had some gator repairs. So you'll see here that is going to actually increase our projected end of year fund balance. We were looking at a deficit of 668. That's now dropped to 368. But if you look to the right, you'll see that we had approved about $1 million for preliminary elementary work. So when you take that out that we budgeted, you're looking at a surplus of about 656 for the school year. Any questions?
Haley, are you looking for approval? Yeah,
Yeah.
for right now, yes. So we have to do approval for this first and then move on to the overall budget.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions before I will entertain a motion to approve budget amendment number 2?
Well, I just wanted to compliment Haley that it's great to have a budget that actually looks really good. So thank you.
Good job, Haley.
Thank you.
Haley, I'll just add, or I guess throw out a question for the board. So typically we don't carry such a large fund balance, the 656, like once you adjust it for the $1 million. Can you explain a little bit to the board about why we're not adding additional expenditures in there at this point to bring that down a little bit?
Of course. So you guys, don't know if you recall, but when I presented Budget Amendment 1, as you know, we've been funding some things with a COVID grant that is going to end September 30. So you'll actually see in the budget that I'm proposing for the 24-25 school year, those expenditures now are rolling into operating. So we were intentional about not pushing everything into a salary line that is going to be reoccurring and we wouldn't be able to pull it back. So part of it's that, honestly, 100,000 of that was literally dropped 2 days ago that we didn't know we were getting. The state didn't tell us, don't know why it happened. So 100,000 is chalked up to that. And then finally, as you all know, we are looking at building a second elementary school. So there are going to be a lot of eyes on our financials in the coming 6 months. And there's some covenants that we're trying to work through with our FA, and the stronger financials that we have, the better we are at brokering a better deal for the school. So we are trying to be intentional this year and next year for our financials to look as good as possible as we're trying to borrow more money at the best possible rate.
And I want to give kudos to Haley and to Dr. Graham. They worked a lot on the ESSER grant, which is otherwise known as COVID monies. And you probably have heard from other local school districts, they were not as intentional about how they spent their money. And now they're in a position where they're having to make some extremely tough choices. And I think that not only did they help to guide the whole administrative team and then the staff that helped to pick resources and things that weren't going to put us in that position, but they also had to show in the end, because it's a federal grant, through lots and lots of documentation as to how those decisions were going to positively impact students. And both of those things happen. So again, just to echo, you're going to see it not look as favorable next year because those monies just aren't there, but we're in nowhere like some of the local districts are having to make some tough decisions.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve budget amendment number 2.
I move that we approve budget amendment number 2.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Benford. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right, so we're here again, approving a budget for 24-25 school year. Just going to quickly go over some of the assumptions that were made when building the budget. We assumed a 2.5% increase in state per pupil funding. As you guys are well aware, we usually don't get that number until August if we're lucky. It has been as late as October. That is a conservative amount, but it's kind of in line with what we've been seeing over the past few years. A 4% increase in CMS. They actually approved their budget, was that Tuesday night? So I think that number is going to go up. And I'll obviously make the adjustment in budget amendment 1 in the 24-25 school year. We budgeted 2% increase for all the other LEAs that we invoice for our students. You will see that there is not a line for COVID money. The ESSA funds expire September 30. We will have a little bit left at June 30 that will roll over, but I'm not sure what that number is right now. So we'll just add that. But again, it will be revenue and then there'll be an offsetting expense. And then we have budgeted about $200,000 in interest income for the coming year. We feel like we can get that. Again, the T-bill turned over about $100,000 in 6 months. So, and we only invested about $4 million. I think we have some space to invest more of our operating funds that are just kind of sitting there idle. And unfortunately, Wells Fargo hasn't been a great partner in doing anything with that excess cash. So I'm talking with PNC and a couple of other banks to see how we can put them in like a money market or something like that to just earn some interest on that. On the expenditure side, we've done step adjustments for salary scheduled staff and a 1.5 for non-salary scheduled. I'm pretty positive that's going to change, but I just need to see what the state budget looks like before we could make any adjustments. We have added the student support data specialist position that was previously funded with ESSA funds, the MTSS lead stipends that were previously funded with ESSA funds. We are seeing a 7% increase in state health insurance and a 3% increase in dental. The retirement rate is set at 24.05% for next year. Right now, again, the state hasn't finalized that budget, so that could change. We have increased contracted services so that we could pay for Nurse Denise at the elementary school. The nurse position is something that has proven to be needed, so we wanted to make sure that we could absorb that into our operating budget. An increase in instructional software. Like Shannon said, there's been some things that we invested in with COVID that we just feel like we need to continue. So we're building that into our operating. We want to replace a bus, increase in some facility contracted services. Just we're seeing, they're going up on their rates. And then the track repairs that you guys approved a few months back, I told you that you would see it in the 24-25 budget because that's when we would actually get invoiced for that. So here you'll see just some historical trends on what state and CMS per pupil funding is looking like. So as you can see, me using 2.5 for state and 4 for CMS, conservative, but within the range. And again, we'll adjust once the actuals come in. So here's the budget for next year. We're looking at about 24 million in revenue. The biggest portion of that obviously being state coming in at 15 million, and then the second biggest bucket being the county revenue we receive for our students at about 7.5. Everything else is pretty much business as usual. So nothing really major to highlight there. On the expenditure side, salary and benefits are going to make up about 17 million of our budget. And then the next biggest bucket being obviously our rent and debt service. So the bond payments for the buildings that we currently have. Again, I've kind of highlighted in the previous slide any major changes. Everything else is pretty much in line. Nothing huge there. This will leave about a surplus of 385. Which kind of speaks to Amy. Y'all are seeing a $600,000 one this year. That's not normal for us. I put this slide in so you guys could really see the breakdown of what our expenditures, and just know that 73% is going to salary and benefits. So I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. And then again, the next biggest bucket, because we are a charter school, is 11% for rent and debt service. If we are a LEA, we don't have that, right? That's something that we wouldn't have to fund. So just putting this in here for a visual. Next slide.
Haley,
Yep.
if you took 11% of our budget, just roughly, that would be, how much are we paying in rent and debt service?
2.5 million.
Right. So again, I think it's always important in case somebody watches this on archive or whatever else. I mean, that's 2.5 million that we can't spend towards other things here because that's what we have for debt service. So it's just something for us to be aware of, but still prioritizing salary and benefits.
Okay, so as you guys know, as part of our covenants, we have to keep so many days cash on hand. We're required to keep 45, but if we maintain at least 75, it helps us reduce our debt coverage ratio. So based upon the budget I'm presenting, we should end the year, we're budgeting about 224. So again, a very, very strong cash position. People may wonder why. That really helps us with our investors. Every time Shannon and I and Gray or Nicole have an investment call, the one thing they call out is our strong and healthy cash balance. Whenever S&P rates us, that's what helps us get the BBB minus. So we just want to make sure that we are maintaining a very strong cash balance, because that's the one area that we can control. And then if you go to the next slide, Shannon, you'll see our debt coverage. Again, we need to be at 1.1 as long as we keep 75 days cash on hand. But right now we're projecting about a 1.38. So we're meeting both of those ratios, which will keep us in compliance with our debt. And I believe that's the last slide. All right. Any questions?
One.
Yeah.
We have in, I think it's one slide back. Right here. Yeah, we had costs in last year and this year for the new elementary, but nothing reflected for next year. Is that just too?
We're hoping that the financing is coming through.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
We hope they get money from the bank.
Got you.
So yeah, that's why you don't see anything yet. If there's any shift in that, then obviously we'll do a budget amendment. But you guys might remember, we even did a reimbursement resolution for that 1 million. So we intend to reimburse ourselves for anything we've spent up until this point in regards to the elementary school.
And just a note on that, Nicole, because I think sometimes people ask this and I make sure that the staff is aware, but in case our LNC community, one of the things that we're looking for is obviously favorable rate, making sure that we're not overextending. And in particular, will this elementary support itself so that it's not drawing upon any of the resources from the other buildings? And by all our calculations, that answer is yes, but as part of the work that Haley has been working extensively with our financial advisors. And when we look for funding, it'll really come down to where this all prices out, because we know what that needs to be. But we would not recommend going forward if we didn't feel that was the case. And so we'll confirm that. We'll be back, the elementary committee, and with Jared and I and Scott and Haley will be ready to come back in August. And we should be in a position to be able to say definitively where we are with that.
Will you remind me what LEA stands for?
Local education agency. So your county school districts. So like CMS is a LEA, Gaston is an LEA, like all of the local, they're just your local education agencies. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to make a comment. Just how lucky we are to have Haley. I mean, I'm just sitting here reflecting on the fact that I think I was hallucinating because I thought we already approved the budget. But when we were doing budget amendment number 2 for like, that was last year's, or we're closing at the end of this fiscal year. And to go an entire year and only have 2 budget amendments, like how fortunate we are to have that, especially when you're dealing with state funds. And I mean, that I'm sure Haley's ready to rip her hair out when she has to deal with that. But how knowledgeable and obviously how well, all of the people within LNC communicate with each other for Haley to be able to nail this to a point where we're not having every month like unexpected things and we're having to adjust budgets and things like that. I mean, that's really impressive. So thank you, Haley.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you, Amy.
So I think that's why I was hallucinating, because when it was budget amendment number 2, I was like, oh yeah, we're in number 2. But the fact that it was 2 for the whole year, and when I realized it, I was like, oh, we haven't even approved the budget for next year yet. So that wonderful job. Thank you so much. So does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the 2024-2025 school year budget.
This is Gray. I'll make the motion that we approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second Elizabeth.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
So, all right, and then that concludes our new business. But before we move on to the motion for the closed session, I just wanted to say a couple things, and then we have a special little presentation. First, typically in June, the nominating committee will come forth with if we have any new board members joining, they'll come forward with if we have a change in officers on the board, which would be chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer, because the board has to vote on any changes to that. If we have a member who is at the end of their 3rd year and has agreed to continue to their second 3-year stint, which would be Ms. Benford in this case, the nominating committee would put a vote to extend her service. And so I just wanted to let everybody know in the room and those who are listening that we have decided to push that off a couple of weeks. We, in hiring our new board member, as you all know, we have one open position. We had 27 impressive candidates put their resumes in, and which was poor Mr. Randall, he's head of the nominating committee. I think I prepped him. I was like, yeah, you might get 10. And so going through those resumes and narrowing it down, and then throwing a couple of other things in his direction that he wasn't expecting, in terms of we have a new possible strategic committee coming up, and maybe looking at some of those candidates to help us with that. So there's lots of things that we have going on. And to be able to really do our due diligence and make sure that we have a candidate that the nominating committee, all supports and has had a time to, interview, we're going to push that off a couple of weeks. And so we're going to do all the nominating committee stuff, like the officer vote, extending Ms. Benford's term. We're going to do all of that via special meeting later in June. That date is to be TBD. But of course, according to the law, we will give 48 hours notice on our website. So I expect that to probably be the 3rd or 4th week in June, if anybody wants to join us for that. It'll be virtual. It will not be a long meeting. And the sole purpose will be for the nominating committee to present all the different things that they need to present. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that because that was a change in, I don't want to say normal because nothing's normal sometimes when you do these things. And I mean, in fact, that we have 27 applicants was, I mean, we should be grateful for that and celebrate that. So, so just wanted to let you all know that. But having said that, one of the things that we will do tonight is Miss Elizabeth Timkovich. She will be rolling off the board. Elizabeth is part of my pledge class, so it is, she is near and dear to me in that respect personally. And I just wanted to kind of say a few things about Elizabeth. She's been on the board. She just completed her 4th year. So this is an unusual turn, and this was something that, you know, we kind of got off kilter. My pledge class was 4 people, and that's unusual. So we've had to kind of shorten some terms to kind of get us back in a good rotation. And so Elizabeth was was gracious enough to help us out with that. But she has, I would love to just say to everybody so that they can appreciate what I appreciate is Elizabeth has been such a versatile board member. When we joined, COVID happened, and Elizabeth and I were set to start on Thrive, and or what was Thrive at the time, it was called something else, but we were pulled from that and joined Safe Schools. And you know, Elizabeth has always been, you know, that individual, and I don't know if it's the lawyer mind in her, but the one who is, you know, rational. She was able, you know, I mean, not that it ever got heated, but you know, we had some very passionate discussions, and you know, I really appreciated Elizabeth's balance in that. I think that she was an integral part of why that committee was so successful. When COVID kind of became a thing of the past, I know it's not in the past, but when we no longer had to devote such attention to it, Elizabeth switched over to the Thrive Committee and did a lot of work with the Leadership in Action. And so we appreciate her service on that. And then to further highlight her versatility, Elizabeth was actually set to roll off last year. And, you know, we had to make some changes, and Elizabeth was like, I'll do whatever you need. Like, I'd be happy to stay on. Her child has already graduated. Zach is, you know, he graduated last year. And so Elizabeth's, I deeply appreciated her willingness to extend her term. She certainly didn't have to do that. I think that was one of the big reasons the board was successful this year in kind of restructuring things and getting back on a good track. And, you know, even though it was only 1 additional year, that year was so invaluable to this board. So I cannot thank Elizabeth enough for all the wonderful contributions she's made to this school, for her willingness to do whatever, whenever was necessary. You know, her willingness to stay on, her willingness to roll off now, you know, kind of off kilter from normal term times. So I deeply appreciate that. So Elizabeth, thank you for your 4 years of service. We could not have done it without you. So. We have a little, yeah. Yes.
Should have thought about this. I would have put on a cuter outfit.
Oh. So we have a little plaque, or a little award, I guess, thanking her for her service and leadership and dedication to make her retirement. And then a little card and token of our.
Thank you guys so much. I guess this has been one of the highlights of the last few years, and I've learned so much, and I've so enjoyed working with all of you. And it's going to be really weird when the first Thursday of a month comes around, and I'll be like, what am I going to do with my evening tonight? thank you all. It's been a real, like, just an honor. I mean, heck, Miss Shipman, if nothing else, when COVID came around, I feel like we were in more of an educated standpoint than most of the people that we know, thanks to her and thanks to the work that we had to do. I mean, it was scary as all get out to try to figure out what to do with that, but, sometimes being thrown into the deep end of the pool, I think it makes things feel that much more special when you see progress being made. So I've been truly honored to be part of it.
Thank you. And there's one thing I did forget to mention. I was thinking about this on my drive over. You know, they always say there are like two things that are certain in life, death and taxes. And I would argue that there is a third thing, is that Elizabeth is not going to let us deviate from the agenda too far. And she is going to let us know when we have spent too much time on something, and she was going to keep us on pace. So hopefully we can continue that, because
It's a good legacy.
I am one that can get, you know, can tend to veer off the path very easily. So that's right.
That's what
So
I was getting ready to
I
say.
do appreciate that, because, you know, I mean, yeah, sometimes I have to be reined in. So, so anyway, so thank you, Elizabeth. Very much
Yeah.
appreciate it. All right, and then the final order of business is we are scheduled for a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes, Section 143-318.11A3. So do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay,
Is that
Ms.
enough?
Ben,
Okay.
yes. Thank you, Ms. Benford. Do I have a second?
Jared, I second.
Oh, fight at the table.
Mr. Tilly.
All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, we are moving into closed session, 11:41, 7:41.